Welcome. This is Rolf Verslus with zkVerify Foundation and Growth Lead, and I've got two great guests here with me today. We're talking about our online hackathon, and so I've got my zkVerify Foundation partner here, Milica, who's DevRel, and is going to be talking more technical aspects of ZK. And we've got Jake Hughes with Open Campus. Open Campus is one of the big sponsors for our hackathon, and he can be talking about why the prizes are focused on AI and decentralized science. Milica, if you could do a brief intro, and then we'll have Jake do a brief intro, and we'll get into it.
Sure, no worries. So, hi everyone, I'm Milica. I'm a PhD candidate in zero knowledge proof research field. As a ZK DevRel, I intend to make smooth developer experience. So I'm engaging with developer community through hackathons, hacker houses, tutorials, education materials, and improving our documentation. So any suggestion from the community is very, very welcome. And I'll be creating educational videos, courses, and other materials to help our fellow developers in zkVerify. And I'll be creating a presence on conferences through presentations, hackathons, workshops, tutorials, anything that you think that will help, meetups. So yeah, I'm there to support the zkVerify Foundation developers.
Thanks, Milica and Rolf, for a really great introduction and warm welcome. And yeah, just thank you for hosting me. Like, I always love to have the opportunity to get in front of more developers and talk about what we're trying to do with Open Campus and EDU Chain. So very excited to get into that today and talk about what zkVerify are up to as well. Quick introduction of myself. I'm on the project team at Open Campus. I actually work for Animoca Brands, so one of the core partners and contributors to the Open Campus ecosystem. And I've been with the team around 18 months. I primarily work on marketing, but it's a role where I wear many hats and have been a big part in growing out the blockchain ecosystem as well. So yeah, very excited to be with you all today and dive into a little bit of that.
That's wonderful. No, that's a great introduction, Jake. You're going to be able to talk about exactly the things that we want to do. So we've already had interaction with a number of the developers that have signed up. We're at about 170 developers that have signed up for this online hackathon already. So there's going to be a lot of activity, a lot of competition. And so I know the developers are going to want to see, what kind of things are the judges going to want to see. And we provided a lot of information. I'm going to show briefly the blog post where we go into some of the details. So I encourage anybody that's part of this hackathon to read this. But this is the blog post regarding the hackathon. So we're talking about different application scenarios for ZK proofs and Web3. And right at the top is the AI and machine learning model validation and privacy. And then we have a number of ideas here on decentralized science and how to use zero knowledge with that. And so those are the things that we're going to talk about today. So Jake, if you could go a little bit more into why AI and decentralized science is such a focus for Open Campus, and maybe even back up a little bit and talk about what Open Campus is working to do with the EDU chain and the overall project.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start off with an overview of just Open Campus, so you're aware of the kind of foundation behind EDU Chain, and then I can talk a little bit about the vision of EDU Chain. And then, like you said, Rolf, would love to also talk about why we're so interested in AI and DeSci and why we want that to be like kind of core pillars of our ecosystem. But to start with Open Campus, Open Campus is actually a community-led DAO, and there's a bunch of different companies that contribute to this DAO. Like I've already mentioned, Animoca Brands is one of them. We have New Campus, we have Rising, and we have HackQuest, and there's a bunch of others as well. And we've got a big variety of companies that are interested in the future of education, contributing to the Open Campus DAO. We also have Binance Labs as an investor, so there's some really big Web3 giants back in this ecosystem as well, because I think everyone recognizes that education can play a big role in onboarding new people to the Web3 ecosystem. So we've got really good support from a variety of different stakeholders who are helping us grow. And as a DAO, our core mission is to build an on-chain education network. And what that simply means is try and get as many education stakeholders, everything from students and educators, edtech founders, universities, hopefully even governments as well, to start contributing to building an on-chain education network. And there's a few core pillars to the ecosystem. One would be EDU chain, which I'll talk a lot more about today, hopefully, and what you're all potentially building for in this hackathon. That's a core pillar. It's our blockchain. It's the first layer 3 blockchain for education. And this is where all of you guys will be building. So that's one of the core pillars. We also have the EDU token, which is a Binance listed token. It's the gas token for EDU chain. It's also how we've managed to grow the network effects for our ecosystem as well. So the more people that hold on to this token that is specifically for on-chain education, the more people we have interested in driving growth for that idea. And I think we have around 300,000 unique holders at the moment. So we've got a really good community of people that are interested in the future of this ecosystem. So that would be the second pillar of the Open Campus DAO. Open Campus ID is another one. And this is essentially the reputation layer for the ecosystem. We want this to be the place where any learning achievement that takes place in schools or online can be stored on chain. And it's also going to be our onboarding tool. So I've talked about sort of our network of edtech companies and partners. We're actually going to use Open Campus ID and the on-chain credentials as a really easy way to onboard people on chain for the first time. Because if you can imagine a course certificate, we're all very used to getting those when we've completed a learning achievement. We're just bringing that on chain, and there's no real financial upfront costs. People can mint that pretty easily, and it'll be the gas fees will be subsidized by the platforms themselves. But once they're on chain, then they can start exploring the ecosystem and learning more. So I'm actually very excited about that part of our ecosystem, because I think it has a really good chance of onboarding millions, potentially billions of people very easily into an on-chain ecosystem.
So I got a comment about that. So I think these on-chain certifications of accomplishment or ability are really important. I know in the Web2 space, like I worked for Cisco Systems, and certainly Cisco's in the IT arena, and they have all sorts of Cisco certifications for different technology, and that's run, of course, by Cisco Systems. Now, all the other IT companies have their own certifications, and they seem all kind of siloed together. So if it's possible to get all these certifications into one place, and certainly starting with Web3 is important, and we're working with Open Campus to be able to have people earn ZK certifications. I see that as really important. And you mentioned having identity work in with that. Well, yeah, that's obvious. You got to have identity to be able to know who are the people getting the certification. So that's a pretty big picture plan. That's pretty exciting, and it probably brings in all sorts of different non-traditional types of education as well, not just university degrees, but like a welding certificate or an entrepreneurship type thing. Or does that sound like?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I definitely want it to go. So I think the easy thing to explain is like a university degree, right? But I don't know about you guys, but I definitely feel like I've learned more as soon as I left formal education, right? As soon as I started doing stuff sort of out in the world, trying to build products, working for different companies, learning by making a hell of a lot of mistakes. But all of that is real learning that upskills you probably. I'm not bashing traditional education system. I think it does a great job, but I think there is a lack of recognition for the learning that happens once you get out of that. And I think what on-chain credentials and learning credentials can do is start, like you said, Rolf, recognizing those informal learning events that we all do every single day. We just don't really have a way at the moment to build a reputation of them. And that's what Open Campus ID is aiming to do, is just give you a chance to, I'm also seeing it as like a, potentially, if we get it right, it could be a new form of social profile, like that you could have linked on your portfolio page, and you can just go and see all of the stuff that you've recorded on chain from your learning achievements. So yeah, it's a big picture thing. We're very early on the journey for Open Campus ID at the moment. We've just got our own achievements system that we're rolling out to our partners, but eventually we'd like all of those other ones to be able to be shown on your Open Campus ID as well. So lots in the future for this, I think.
Yeah, and that kind of gets into what's the idea of what is an identity? Is an identity something that was given to you by the government of your place of birth, or is your identity the things that you've accomplished in your life? And your identity is a whole lot more than just your passport.
Absolutely. It's a whole lot more than your passport, your birth certificate, your degree certificate, and we just need a good way to start flexing it and proving to people who we are and what we've done and what we've achieved.
Cool. No, and that's a really good big picture. So, Melissa, we talked a little. Oh, before I ask you about this, Melissa, so Jake, could you lead into how you see AI and decentralized science fitting into that big picture thing?
Yes, absolutely. So I think where AI and decentralized science fit into the open campus ecosystem would definitely be on EDU chain. We want there to be lots of dApps built on EDU chain that fit into those two topics. And the reason why, and I'll start with AI, is that I think there's no doubt that AI will play a huge part in the future of education. We're already seeing it quite a lot with just the acceleration of the tech, but it can solve a whole bunch of different problems. And I think, like, without going too deep, because I could talk about it for quite a long time, the biggest one, right, is the biggest problem of education is that the best way to educate someone would be a one-on-one tutor, which is just not feasible in the current education system, right? It's just there's too many kids, not enough teachers. Whereas AI solves that problem. You can have a one-on-one tutor straight away. Might not be as good as a real teacher right now, but I think
So I read an article yesterday that Harvard did a study of the amount of learning that students would get from the best Harvard instructors versus being taught one-on-one by AI. They learned faster and better being taught by personalized AI. Better than the best Harvard instructors. And I mean, I'm like, oh, not sure if I was a university I'd do that study, but that's a great point. So AI with customized tutorial learning.
exactly, and yeah, I mean, I thought it wasn't quite there yet, but Rolf, yeah, Harvard have proved that it is already there. Yeah, that it is potentially better than a lot of teachers, and that's one thing, right? The one-on-one tutoring. I am a fan of thinking of AI as a tool for us to use. So I'd rather it do our admin than our artwork. Okay. So I think that's another big thing it can fix within education as well. It can reduce admin for teachers. It can help with marking, exams, and course submissions. And the theory there is that it can make and free up time for teachers to actually just get on and come up with new concepts to teach kids and improve their lesson plans rather than spending so much time doing the admin. I think it can also improve accessibility. We just talked about it being as good as a Harvard professor, right? Traditionally, not everyone can go to Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, Princeton. They're really hard universities to get into, which keeps that knowledge trapped to a certain type of person that can get access to it. Whereas now, arguably, all of that knowledge that you can get from going to Harvard and more is available at everyone's fingertips. So that will have an impact on education and how people learn. So when we think about the future of education, there's no doubt AI will play a role in it. That's why we're so interested in it. And I think if we can marry that up with blockchain technology, what we've already discussed around these credentials as well, being able to kind of verify the knowledge that you're being taught from AI tools, being able to store the learning achievements that you've achieved from using these tools as well, is going to be really impactful for teachers and students. Yeah. So that's why we're interested in AI. I just think it would be crazy for us to ignore it being an education ecosystem. It just has to be part of our ecosystem. And that's why we're encouraging and sponsoring a variety of different hackathons to make sure that we've got builders coming into our ecosystem that are thinking of these things, because we can't build all of the AI products ourselves. We need developers to come in and build this stuff for us. But AI is definitely a big part of the ecosystem.
So on that note, I wanted to drill down to some specifics here, give Melissa a chance to opine on this. So one of the big things that I see when we talked about identity earlier is that when you do things online, you don't necessarily want to share your entire life's financial history and other things like that, which is what happens when you tie things to an Ethereum address. but there's a lot more to it than that. There's AI training models and stuff like that. So Melita, based on what we've talked about so far about education and AI, can you talk specifically, your opinion on that and how ZK proofs might be able to assist that to work better?
Yeah, sure. Like, it's someone who's still in a traditional pipeline of education, because as a PhD, it's like the last pillar, I guess, from the education that you get as a formal education. So I see the point that you guys shared, that AI is helping students a lot to learn a lot, even more than they get at the class. And I get why is that so, because you can train those models to adapt to your learning style. For example, I'm learning through examples, someone learns through pictures, someone else learns through, I don't know, narrative or story, and everyone has its own different learning style. And I know that the professors, they cannot devote their time to everyone, and that's why people revert to one-on-one sessions. So, for example, like, I'm giving out, as a student, I'm giving out the data on my learning style, or some maybe more sensitive data, like where I live and the perimeter where I'm going around, let's say, and trying to find more PhD students to collaborate. And maybe those are some data that I'm not actually, voluntarily willing to share with AI models, because for now, what I see, they're not really controlled as to where they're not even controlled, like, on what type of data they're being trained on. So that's something like I would like to see, like the proofs of the data models as well, and as well as with data. And I would definitely, as a user, I'm looking always from the user perspective, I would definitely love that my data is protected, at least anonymized through ZK proofs, that we can hide it and make it anonymous, but still being able to for me to reach its potential.
Yeah, no, I'd love to add a little something there, and this is more a high level point, but I think what you touched on there around being able to choose what data is shared, right? I think that's a real fundamental thing that we should have as people going forward in the advent of AI, like being able to decide on which platforms get our data, which platforms can actually use it, because you're right, there are some actors that are, let's say, questionable, and at the moment they're just hoovering up every bit of data they can get, right? Whereas I think with ZK proof technology and blockchain technology, at least the user who owns that data can hopefully have a bit more of a say about where it's used and where it goes, which I would like that to be the future, rather than these big corporate institutions just sucking up everything when we don't get a say in it at all. So yeah, I love that point at the end, Emily. Sure.
Yeah, now when I'm researching something, I have to type in, like, give me the results before 2023, and like when I'm researching something online. But that's because we don't have a control over what AI models are trained on, and especially when you're volunteering your data, it's I think, yeah, definitely that ZK proofs can definitely aid there to give us a proof of the data training model and the data that we're having.
That helps a lot. Thanks, Melissa. And then, so Jake, we talked a little bit about AI. Can you talk a little bit about why Animoca Brands and Open Campus is interested in the decentralized science?
Yeah, sure. So this might seem more of a stretch of why an education ecosystem is interested in decentralized science, but how I look at it at a high level is that science is essentially a precursor to education. If we didn't have scientists on the frontiers researching new fields, there would arguably be not much to teach. Like, we need scientists to go out there and create new content for us as students and as people to have new content to learn and new frontiers to explore. So I think it definitely is linked with education. So that's why we were initially interested. And again, being a Web3 company that is rolling out blockchain technology, again, if we look to the future of science, we would much rather this all be transparent and bring as much of it on chain as possible, because it increases accessibility and a bunch of other stuff as well. So some of the problems, I guess, with decentralized science at the moment is that the research funding is very centralized. This is a problem that Web3 can solve. A lot of scientific data remains like in paywalls and it's not very accessible. Again, this is something that blockchain technology and ZK proofs can solve. And all of these problems in science at the moment are kind of halting like scientific discoveries, really. If we can make it more accessible, unlock funding to new types of research that might not be fashionable at the moment or politically correct at the moment, that will advance like humans forward. So that's like at a high level why at Animoca Brands and at Open Campus we're interested. One, because we think making it more decentralized and using blockchain technology and things like ZK proofs can just make it more accessible, and then that just opens up a whole new world for science.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that can be done for science with blockchain, like referring to papers and things like that. And yeah, in that blog post I referenced earlier, just some of the ideas to Melitza's point of private data sharing, verification of scientific results. I think that's kind of an issue, is that sometimes papers are just published. I think there's a lot of AI scientific papers that are being published that are just making stuff up. So being able to replicate results is really important. That's like part of the scientific process, and challenging him and things like that. Federated learning, to me, that's an interesting one, where a bunch of different people from different areas contribute in different ways. And anytime you get into anything medical, you have to protect the information of the people that you're doing the medical studies on. So there's a ton of ways that not just blockchain technology, but also ZK in its ability to keep some information private and also prove that computations happened can help. And I went to a decentralized science briefing a couple of years ago, and guys, like, one of the biggest things is referring to previous papers, right? So one of the ways that you judge the effectiveness of a scientific paper is how many other papers refer back to this one. And that's, and then what do you do, though, if it turns out that one of those papers that have a lot of others referring to it has been challenged and shown to be not correct or fraudulent? How do we then update that whole chain of referrals? Very straightforward in a blockchain environment, very difficult in a publishing environment.
Yes, we have like citation indexes. So every scientific paper published, it has to be in the journal to be counted, scientific one, and there's actually no difference between so-called positive and negative citations. So you can see, for example, scientific papers with a lot of citations, but they do not differentiate between positive and negative. So that's one caveat as well in the scientific community.
Yeah, and scientific papers, the way they're set up now is they have to use lots of big words and they have to have lots of different things. There's a lot of people out there that are part-time scientists that can look at problems and approaches from a different realm and have the ability to solve them. And so by being able to contribute partially, there's a book I'm reading right now called Range that talks about how different people from different realms are able to solve problems for pharmaceutical companies, for other types of companies, just because they bring a different perspective, a different analogy. So being able to extend scientific study to a much broader audience of making it available. And to your point, Jake, not just centralized university, government funded type things, because governments are good at some things, like they're really good at building militaries. They're really good at organizing people and stuff like that. And it's a joke in the engineering industry. If you're going to be an aerospace engineer, you're going to end up designing missiles for Lockheed Martin. And there's a lot of other things that aerospace engineers could do, and there's a lot of other things that scientific establishment could do. But why not let people just explore whatever they want? And if people find that exploration is valuable, they can contribute tokens to that person so they can continue doing their science. So it's a much more decentralized version, and we'd be able to advance the scientific fronts on all realms of society, not just the ones that governments deem important.
Exactly. I think that's a huge thing that Web3 and cryptocurrency can bring to the scientific world, is this new model of funding. I don't know if you guys have followed pump.science, but there was a study that got funded on there. It's basically like a meme coin launchpad for DeSci projects. And one of the projects I saw that got funded on there, and it went up to a crazy high valuation, was basically, I think if I'm remembering correctly, tracking flies across Europe and how they travel. Right, which doesn't sound like a sexy study at all, but someone was interested in it, and they were interested in the impact that they could have from studying that. That might have taken years, maybe thousands of years, to get enough funding to do this study in the traditional methods, just because it's not very, not necessarily a hot topic, whereas a Web3 platform is able to fund that in minutes. And that's the power that the Web3 model of funding can open up, is that if you've got an idea and you can connect to people that want to back it, then you can get funded really quickly. So I think that can have a big impact on science. It hopefully will extend to more than just tracking flies across Europe, to a bunch of other cool ideas as well. But it just proves the model that can be done, of just speeding up the whole research and funding process.
There is like one thing that people may not know, is that when you're sending a scientific paper to be published in a scientific journal, the reviewers are mostly not paid at all. So they're there on a voluntary basis, and you might wait for the review and approval for up to 2 years.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, we might be able to do it faster through Open Campus and EduChain.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a decentralized network of reviewers, and then there can be incentives put up by the community because they want that particular piece to get reviewed faster, like that's a new way to do it that we can do with blockchain technology. And hopefully, I mean, it will decrease wait times, right, on stuff like that, Milica.
Yeah, and more PhDs, I guess.
Well, I was reading the history of science over the last 1,000 years, which, but we've had a lot of scientific advancements over the last 1,000 years. And a while back, it was the Catholic Church had monasteries, and monks had all their needs taken care of, so they could spend their time discovering whatever they wanted to discover. And there was a lot of advancements in metallurgy, brewing, agriculture, all sorts of things like that. And then in the UK, the Royal Society was founded, and it was basically aristocrats who didn't have to worry about money. They could go spend time doing whatever they wanted, and it became a mark of honor to be a botanist or one of the early scientific inquiries. So there was a lot of advancements in UK made because they didn't have to worry about getting paid by whoever would pay them. So this decentralized funding, I think it could really take off. So I could see how science and education could focus together, and how decentralized science can really drive that forward, and AI can drive education forward. So that makes sense why Open Campus would want to do that. So I know that a bunch of the participants in our hackathon are asking the question, so what can we build? So what can we do? And a hackathon is a great place to get ideas on how you can use the technology and demonstrate how new technology can be used. And then also it gives folks the ability to show their technical capability. But we really I love to get ideas from just all over the place. And so some of these proto ideas that can happen in a hackathon, we could say, oh, wow, that's interesting. And then we don't have a grants and incubation program set up yet at zkVerify, but we're, y'all are a little ahead of us there on Open Campus. But I think that's the way to take these ideas and put them into fully working functional products. And fully working functional products from an idea is a whole nother discussion. I'm actually going to have going to schedule a live stream with Eddie from HackQuest to talk about, and then we're gonna have a third person on to talk about how you can take ideas and build businesses around them. So, I built a business, grew it, and sold it. I've been in sales for a long time, been in engineering. So sometimes that perspective gets a little bit overlooked in the Web3 space, but I think it's important and valid as well. So we'll be covering that in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think I'm with you. I love the hackathon format for generating new ideas for products that can be built in different fields. But I think you're right. Taking it from that idea to a product that has traction and scale is a tough process. And that's something we're focused on at Open Campus as well. We understand that that is a journey that people need to go on, from submitting a hackathon project to actually having a solid user base. And that's why we've set up an incubator. We've got a 12-week program for anyone that competes in one of our hackathons and places. They get invited to this 12-week program where they'll get mentorship from a variety of different people that have built businesses before. They can ask questions, they can network with other people that are either developers themselves looking to make the transition to become a founder, or they can chat with other founders and just ask them, because I think having that network to tap into when you're struggling with problems and banging your head against the wall because you haven't run a business before is just going to speed things up and take those products to market a lot quicker. So yeah, that's something we thought about when we were launching a blockchain. We thought, okay, we're going to start doing hackathons, but how can we do it a little bit better than other people? And I think that incubator piece at the end of the hackathons is how we do it, and would be more than happy to open up invites to people from this hackathon to come into that as well.
Oh, that sounds great. No, and the mentorship is really important. I know when we were growing our business, me and my business partner were like, oh, we're kind of running out of money. And then we're talking to somebody about it. They're like, well, how do you get paid? We're like, well, we do the whole work and then we get paid. He's like, maybe you should ask for half the money up front. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Really obvious when someone says it, but we hadn't had that idea. So, there's a lot of just little things like that all over the place. If you make some small change and all of a sudden your business goes from not being very viable to being super viable. And so that's why getting those experienced folks with the new folks together in incubator grants program and just having these open type of discussions is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a fresh pair of eyes when you're coding and you're stuck at some problem and then someone else jumps in and help you out.
Yeah, no, exactly. So Melissa, from a standpoint of the interactions that you've had with developers already on this, are there any recommendations that you'd want to make, or some ideas that jump to mind, a need where, some demonstration programs that people could do on Open Campus using ZK proofs with zkVerify?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we should definitely have some brainstorming session at the beginning of our hackathon, so that people can come in and exchange ideas, and maybe someone else will find some great idea at someone else's, session. But what I'm interested in seeing now, and I hope that will be built at some point, is having a partial, like for the people who are taking part in the research as data providers. So, for example, for medical research, for the people who volunteering data, and so that they can get parts of funding along with the researchers, and also for the reviewers of the scientific papers. So some sort of system where everyone gets rewarded. So that's something that would actually change the scientific world.
That's a pretty big idea. It would be great if someone could develop, example app that progresses us down the path of that idea.
Yeah, an MVP at the beginning, so then Jake can help them out, steer the business.
Exactly. Well, I do want to say that, people should join our zkVerify Telegram. They should join our zkVerify Discord. That's where a lot of the discussion around this, especially in the Discord Hackathon channel, is going to happen. Jake, with Open Campus, are there any socials that people want to join if they want to have a more open campus focused discussion? I know there's a lot of overlap here, but I think we want people to be part of our communities in an ongoing way and contribute for years. At least that's what I'm looking for. I'm thinking that's what y'all are looking for too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, and in terms of socials, to kind of continue the conversation, we've got a Discord that is a good place, and we do have a Telegram channel set up specifically for developers. So they would be the best places. And if you are looking for just more info on the Open Campus and EDU Chain ecosystem, I'd recommend going to our EDU Chain blog, which is a Medium blog, and we actually have an article up there called the DeSci Manifesto, and we've got a really chunky list of product ideas that would be good for you guys to look at, to get some inspiration for what you could build for this hackathon and your future as a developer as well. There's a list of kind of 100 different DeSci products that you could kind of build off of. So yeah, Discord, Telegram, and then the EDU Chain blog would be the best places to follow up with.
Wonderful. That's good recommendation, because for people that are looking to develop an app, never hurts to build one where the organization says, this is what we want. So sometimes you have to have the ability to recognize it's the right answer when somebody tells you that. So that's good. Okay.
Yeah. Saying that, though, we know we don't have all the answers, and we're definitely looking for the creativity of the developer community to come up with stuff that we're not even thinking of. But the idea of that list is just to get everyone's juices flowing, get them thinking about what they could do, and I'm sure they'll make our ideas 100 times better than we could have ever thought.
Nice. Okay, well, I think we're getting close to wrapping up. Melissa, is there anything else that you wanted to add about the hackathon or working with Open Campus or anything?
Sure. So please reach out to us for any kind of issues if you have, like for Acme tokens, for registration, for anything that you know that would improve our documentation or our process. I'll be there, and all the channels, and definitely will be there to verify the ideas and in the end the proofs.
Sounds good. Well, thank you both for joining. Jake, Lisa, really appreciate it. I'm going to end the live stream here. You can stay on if you want, but I'm going to end the live stream now. Thank you, everybody, for joining.